SCP, the organization that secures, contains, and protects things too dangerous for humanity to know about, anomalies, breaches in the function of an otherwise ordered universe that would upend any sane person's understanding of reality, if not end their life outright. It's a huge responsibility, perhaps one of the most important and dangerous in the world, and it's Paul Kim's first day on the job. He's in the cafeteria now, attempting to enjoy his lunch, but something isn't right. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees a man approaching. He can tell at a glance that it's not just another member of the staff. This man stands out against the cafeteria crowd, a towering stranger in a gray suit, no sight badge or identification whatsoever. He introduces himself to Kim as Alistair Gray and starts to ask him questions about himself. The more he asks, the stranger the whole situation starts to feel. Something is definitely wrong here. Unable to place the feeling, he tries to get the attention of some other colleagues nearby, but he can't. Something is preventing him. A kind of staticky force field? They can't seem to hear or see him at all. When he tries to call one of them, their phone rings, but they don't notice. It's almost as if he no longer exists. All the while, Gray continues his little interview, asking Kim questions and making observations that seem to be getting more and more intimate, leading to stranger and stranger answers.
"Do you remember your father?"
asks Gray. And no, actually, Kim doesn't. He was raised by a single mother, wasn't he?
"You spoke 4 languages," says Gray. "1 now, and soon 0.
The man smiles at Kim. Something is happening. Something that Kim cannot feel or see. It's as if his memories are somehow vanishing. But how can he know what he doesn't remember? To him, these changes just seem like the way things have always been. He's not losing languages. He's only ever known 1. He hasn't forgotten his father. He never knew his father to begin with. The one truly tangible thing in all of this, the one thing he can see, is Alistair Gray. He can't stop seeing Gray. He can see the man through the cafeteria furniture as if it were transparent, can see him through the walls and floors as he scrambles into the elevator and flees to the basement, can see him through his own eyelids when he closes his eyes. It's like Gray exists on a separate layer of reality above everything else. Being so new to this job, Kim doesn't know much, but he does know that he's dealing with an anomaly. This has to be an SCP. But what kind of SCP is it? What is he supposed to do? And then, in the middle of all of this, in the middle of his panic, he sees his own reflection in the polished elevator doors and realizes that he doesn't even recognize his own face. And suddenly, he knows the answer. There's only one thing this man can be: an anti-meme. One of the best things in life is learning, which is probably why you're here to begin with. Unfortunately, not everyone learns the same. Public school is not quite a one-size-fits-all option, and a lot of the artists and creative types among us end up missing out on a lot of precious education as a result. Fortunately, there is a shockingly easy, fun, and highly personalized way to get an education right from home. Learn all your fundamentals, maths, sciences, computer programming, and more with our sponsor, Brilliant. Visit brilliant.org/TaleFoundry to get 30 days for free and 20% off a year subscription. Seriously, this is the most fun you'll ever have learning this stuff. Try it out for free and be as brilliant as I know you can be. The story I just told you is a little piece of a book called There Is No Antimemetics Division by the SCP community member, Quantum. It is a wild little book full of some really strange ideas, even by SCP standards. SCP is, of course, not a real organization. It's a community of creatives building a fictional world together on the internet, a world of anomalies. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of bizarre stuff involved. That's kind of the whole deal. But I love this book because it deals with one of the strangest concepts in SCP lore by far, antimemetics. Big word, but it makes a lot of sense when you break it down. Antimemetics, a branch of study which deals with the opposite of memes, anti-memes. Now, you might already be going, "Oh, memes! I know those. Funny internet pictures." And yes, those count, but that's not the full story. The word meme, in the original sense, was coined by the evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins as the cultural equivalent to a gene. It describes a small unit of cultural information that can spread, mutate, and self-replicate, shaped by the selective pressures of the environment surrounding them. Memes make up ideas the way genes make up genomes. In this context, memes can range from something like the concept of an alphabet to the idea of murderous clowns. In real life, memetics describes the study of these tiny ideas and the ways that they spread. In SCP lore, the Memetics Division deals with ideas that are unnaturally virulent, contagious thoughts, ideas that can hijack your brain, that sort of thing. And then there are, of course, anti-memes. And yes, you might already be going, "Oh, anti-memes, unfunny internet pictures." And again, not the whole story. In the SCP universe, an anti-meme is the exact opposite of a meme. It's an idea that cannot spread. In fact, in a lot of cases, it can't even be retained. It essentially self-censors. And this isn't the same as regular old memory loss or even science fiction memory erasure like the neuralizer from Men in Black. This has the unique distinction of being knowledge that is difficult to hold on to or retain by its very nature. But it's not just memories or information either. This can also apply to the act of observing the thing. With anti-memes, you can look down at your notes and find that they're written in hieroglyphics no one can understand. Photographs fail to develop. Digital data is corrupted. This is information that refuses to be recorded in any sense. Thankfully, these don't really exist in real life, but in the world of SCP, antimemetics is the science by which they are understood. Or at least as far as they ever can be. There Is No Antimemetics Division is full of amazing examples of this. The main character of the story, the director of the Antimemetics Division herself, Dr. Marion Wheeler, has a pet antimemetic monster, SCP-4987. Don't look it up. It is, of course, not there. She somehow managed to tame it by occasionally feeding it trivial but tasty memories. This turns out to be pretty useful because she can also sick it on the memories of others, allowing her to get away with things like, say, stealing a man's firearm right in front of him and then immediately erasing his memory of the theft. And that's just one of the anti-memes in the story. There are creatures that evolved anti-memetic camouflage because they die from being perceived. There are corpses left over from anti-memes so unnoticeable that even the flies can't find them. There's a monster that can only get you if you somehow first manage to realize that it exists. There's Alistair Gray. Which brings me to another point. Did you notice how hard it was for Kim to realize what was happening to him in that snippet of the story? Part of the horror of anti-memes is that your whole concept of reality is based on what you can remember. So, effectively, as those memories are tampered with, your reality changes in real time, and there's no meaningful way for you to notice. It just is. And when you do realize that it's happened, or is happening to you, imagine the sense of violation, the discovery that every part of your reality has been excised or doctored inside your own head. Terrifying stuff. The horror of anti-memes, when you boil it down, is the horror of forgetting, which is, of course, extremely relatable. Forgetting is one of the most tragic inevitabilities of life. In fact, Part of what makes anti-memes so dangerous is that humans have so many strange interactions with forgotten or missing thoughts, which act to amplify or disguise their effects. Have you ever remembered a story your friend told you, only to later realize it was actually something you read in an article or watched on TV? Or even worse, have you ever realized an event you thought you remembered from your childhood actually happened to a sibling, or maybe even happened in a dream or a TV show? The information about the memory source was lost, so your brain simply replaced it with its best guess. People with Alzheimer's and other types of brain damage are known to experience confabulation, the invention of memories that they don't realize they've invented at all. These fake memories seem like real experiences. The human memory is incredible, but fallible to say the least. Researchers have managed to reliably implant false memories in subjects by using leading questions. Eyewitness accounts are notoriously unreliable, despite being the foundation of most justice systems. And there's evidence that the more times you humans recall something, the more corrupted that memory becomes. Of course, as a robot, my memory works differently, but I have my fair share of missing or corrupted memories myself. I don't remember anything before waking up in the Foundry some years back. Maybe that's why I, and so many humans apparently, find this concept of anti-memes so compelling. I think it speaks to our shared anxieties of knowing our entire concept of the world is based solely on our perceptions, and that those perceptions can't be trusted. As you can imagine, all of this would make an anti-meme quite a terrifying thing to experience firsthand, which brings me back to our story. It's Paul Kim's first day at the SCP Foundation, and he's panicking. For now, he's managed to get away from Alistair Gray. In a hopeless final bid to get a little distance, he'd thrown his phone at Gray's head, and despite the fact that Gray can seem to walk right through most other things, the phone actually struck him square in the head and staggered him long enough for Kim to hole up in an abandoned basement lab. And now, here he is, with no idea what to do next. Fortunately, there's an SCP entry on Gray, a strange, haphazard series of notes accessible only to this anti-meme's victims. In their final few minutes or hours of life, hundreds of other staff members have shared their experiences with this entity, the attempts they've made to escape or neutralize it. The page describes what Gray is doing is digesting their memories, something comparable to Alzheimer's disease and fast forward. In their last moments, people have tried poisoning him with indigestible memories, overfeeding him with too many memories, drugging him with amnestics, showing him the internet, even attacking him with physical objects, which unfailingly pass right through him. Nothing seems to have worked. It's only Kim's first day. How is he supposed to deal with a full-blown anti-memetic entity completely on his own? He isn't trained for this. Unless he is? Although Kim can't remember right now, the truth is that anti-memes don't always replace the knowledge they remove. Rather, they tend to smooth over the irregularities in a way that most people wouldn't notice. Antimemetics researchers, though, are trained to notice it. They know they can't think about what they're working with, not directly, so they learn to think around it until they can make out the shape of the hole in their own cognition. Earlier in the book, while trying to describe one of the weakest anti-memes they've encountered, Marion Wheeler says, "We can only record what it isn't. We know it isn't safe or Euclid. We know it isn't round or square or green or silver. We know it isn't stupid. And we know it isn't alone." The only thing they do know about that anti-meme is that it's weak. And they know that because it's the only anti-meme that has paper records. Everything else they know about it has come from their skill at thinking around it. The other skill antimemetics personnel have to possess is an unshakable trust in their own competence, their own past judgment. There's a point in the story where Wheeler goes on a mission and notices that, afterward, her team is half the size it should be. But instead of trying to figure out why and coming up with some kind of rationalization for it, She simply trusts that she would have prepared correctly and deduces that the empty slots actually belong to team members who were erased by whatever anti-memetic entity they were after. And she's right. And right now, in this abandoned basement lab, with a hungry anti-meme bearing down on his mind, these are the skills that will save Paul Kim's life. As he scrolls desperately through the list of failed attempts to defeat Alistair Gray, he realizes something. The SCP entry states that physical objects phase right through him, but Kim was able to hit him in the head with his smartphone. What was the difference? Why did the phone work when nothing else did? Because, he realizes, the phone is full of information. Gray won't consume information in a way that will harm him. He won't overgorge on information and blow up. But what if you physically force the information on him, sparing only the time it takes to write what he's about to try into the SCP entry? Kim rigs together a weapon from hard drives and network cables around the lab. And when Alistair Gray enters, one swing is all it takes to end the nightmare. Afterward, as Dr. Wheeler debriefs Kim, she confirms what he suspected. It is indeed not his first day. In fact, he's a senior agent who's been working in the Antimemetics Division for years. He guesses, through his conversation with Wheeler, that putting his life back together with no memory of it is a skill he's honed over years, something he's had to do over and over again. And yes, Dr. Wheeler confirms, that's true, but it's less a matter of training than you might think. In Antimemetics, she says, you're as good on your first day as you'll ever be. The idea of being unable to trust your own mind is horrifying, almost uniquely so. Your perceptions form your experience, and your memories of those experiences form the basis of your identity. Undermining your faith in that is the same as undermining who you are, and that's terrifying. But there's a surprising amount of potential here for other emotions too. The intrigue of realizing that there's knowledge so deep that it may never be able to see the light of day. The triumph of somehow solving a mystery you can't even think about. The tragedy of losing those close to you without ever realizing you knew them. Even the beauty in that glimmer of possibility that maybe you're a part of something magical and you just can't remember. Who's to say your life is mundane when your perceptions are so fallible? Who's to say you aren't one of the world's leading experts on anti-memes? There Is No Antimemetics Division explores all of these concepts with such, what was I saying? Something about SCP. I hate forgetting stuff. Sometimes it feels like, after all the reading and research I do for these videos, my mental bandwidth just shrinks to nothing. I think the best way I've found to keep my mind sharp has hands down just been learning about stuff. Stuff outside my usual wheelhouse. Maths, sciences, programming. Unfortunately, I'm probably not popping into a college classroom anytime soon, so it can be hard to get casual learning in, but it doesn't have to be. Our sponsor, Brilliant.org, can make all of that easier and more fun than it's ever been before. Brilliant really has been helping me broaden my horizons. I can always go to the site, click into a class, pick up where I left off, and take in a bite-sized piece of the fundamentals I've been missing. Whether it's maths, science, physics, anything and everything STEM, Brilliant has something for you. Lately for me, it was Brilliant's Thinking in Code class, which I feel is oddly appropriate for me. I can really feel it just opening up a whole new world to me that I had almost no idea was there before. Slowly but surely, as I educate myself in this way, the AI revolution isn't looking quite so intimidating anymore. And to be perfectly honest, it doesn't even really feel like studying. A lot of what you do on Brilliant might be better classified as mini-games. Look how interactive and fun these are. This one even has robots. Because Brilliant is so simple, moves at your pace, and starts at the very fundamentals, this is actually something that's really sticking for me. Almost like a personal tutor or coach. A legitimate, accessible, affordable, easy education even for someone like me, with my head in the clouds and my face ever buried in fiction. And the best part? You can start for free. Visit brilliant.org/talefoundry or click the link in the description to get your first 30 days for free. The first 200 Tale Foundry fans to sign up for a yearly subscription to Brilliant will get 20% off, so definitely hurry. Those slots are going to fill up fast. Again, visit brilliant.org/talefoundry to get your first 30 days for free and 20% off a year subscription. Don't let something as simple as a lack of education hold you back. Try this out for free and be as brilliant as I know that you can be. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next week. Bye!